Skyscraper window cleaners of Reddit. What is most bizarre thing you've ever seen on the job? Once while cleaning a high-rise apartment, an old lady kindly asked me if I was hungry and proceeded to open her window and hand me a pizza slice. So I sat there, 27 stories up, tangling on my chair and eating pizza. It was a good day. Not as exciting as the other stories, but something I'm blown away by when I'm on ropes is how many people feel guilty about not working when I'm around. When you look into people's workstations you can see that almost no one works. Most people are on Facebook, YouTube or on news sites. But the second they notice me outside the window they quickly switch to an Excel spreadsheet. Like they think I'm some kind of productivity spy about to rat them out to management. Keep cruising the internet, people. Don't mind me. And also, pointing to the window and saying, "You missed a spot," isn't funny. Frick you. We also do that when anyone walks by as well. Office work is weird like that. Some days it's 11 hours straight of work, but other days there are gaps. We don't like to let people think that we aren't always doing something, so we feel guilty. But literally everyone is the same. Half the time I have already finished my work well before my deadlines and just keep the spreadsheets, reports, analysis etc. open. And I just maximize them and scroll around whenever anyone walks up so it looks like I'm up to something. I joke about this with my boss sometimes after I caught him minimizing a soccer game. He's a Real Madrid fan. On his computer, if people in your office aren't causing problems, it can be a bit more relaxed regarding how productive you have to look. But there are some people who will assume that anything they see you doing is what you are always doing, and will cause you problems with HR if the office is too political. Thankfully my office isn't like that, but I still have the same urge nonetheless to not be on crappy internet when people walk by. I used to live in a high-rise condo. Sometimes the window cleaners go up the side of the building where my small bathroom window is. One Saturday morning after a crazy night out, I ended up needing to take a really spicy beer shit. So I opened up the window and sat down on my toilet, hungover, with my eyes closed thinking about where I went wrong in my life choices that led me to this moment where death seemed like a reasonable alternative. Then I hear my window close. Apparently the window cleaner needed to close it to go up higher. Cue the slow ascent of their window elevator thing. They saw me destroying my toilet. We made eye contact and I gave him the universal nod of understanding. He gave me one back and continued his slow ascent upwards at like an inch a second. Edit. Holy crap. I didn't realize the way I worded the story made it seem like I was either sitting or shitting off my ledge, so I added a little italicized edit. I mean sat down on the toilet. I'm not suicidal, but I'm sure we've all had that hangover where you become borderline just for a while. I've been a rope access window cleaner for a couple years and have seen my fair share of weirdness. A couple incidents that stick out are a young couple having fun that invited me to join, an apartment in a ritzy building completely empty other than a table with several sheets of freshly printed, uncut $100 bills, a real ass mummy sarcophagus, being offered several joint hits and various adult beverages while hanging off the side of a building. Animals were always my favorite though. Cats and puppies lose their minds seeing you outside their window and will happily chase your mop and squeegee while you work. Always brightened the day. Not a skyscraper window washer, but was a janitor who had to wash the windows in a 6-story building as part of my job. So I used a mix of ladders and rappelling down from the roof with a harness to clean the outside windows. One day I was washing the outside windows on the executive floor, where all the bosses and higher up employees had their offices. I was done with one window, so I moved to the next window and looked in and saw the CEO of the company snorting something in his office with the door locked and the lights off. He looked up and saw me in the window and we made an uncomfortable eye contact for about 15 seconds. Then I just pretended I saw nothing and kept washing the windows. Never spoke a word about it to him or anyone in the office. But the last day I worked there he gave me a farewell card with $200 in it and a free solar powered portable phone charger that the company produced and sold. I once had a bookcase collapse on me in my office. As I was laying on the floor under a pile of books and shelves I heard a knock. There was a window cleaner at the window trying not to laugh and asking if I was okay. Okay. So not exactly what OP was asking for, but a funny story nonetheless. I was in medical school on my psychiatry rotation at the local VA hospital. We're in the 6th floor inpatient psych unit seeing a guy with schizoaffective disorder. We were asking him about any hallucinations or delusions he may have been having. And he tells us that he was seeing ropes outside his window and was worried people were trying to get into his room. Seeing that there were clearly no ropes outside his window, we made note of his persistent symptoms and went about our rounds. About half 1 hour later we get to another patient's room. And we suddenly see ropes dropping from the roof down the side of the building. Turns out the poor guy wasn't hallucinating. They were just cleaning the windows. Lol. One time in college I answered a help wanted ad for a window cleaner. I thought it was going to be one of these high-rise jobs. Instead, when I showed up the interview, it was some methy looking guy in a parking lot. I spent the day with him going from house to house cleaning people's windows. He told me to pretend I was his nephew. And he kept introducing me to customers that way. Then when we were cleaning windows he kept telling me his fantasies of fucking the housewives. It was super weird. Plus, he chewed tobacco and while driving would spit the juice between his legs onto the floor of his ratty truck. Then at the end of the day, he told me it was just an audition and tried not to pay me. One of the strangest days of my life. I was 15. Could pass for 18 on the job at a heavy construction site. And got told on the Friday payday of my second week by my boss. He knew I was 15 and so he didn't have to pay me for busting my ass for him for the past 90 hours of labor. And to get lost and cry to my mommy and daddy. And he would sue me. When I said I would tell the Department of Labor, I got the job through one of their posts. He told me he knew where I lived and that it would not turn out well. I lived with my parents at 15, of course. I left. Told my older brother. Got another construction job within a couple of days that didn't pay quite as well. And stayed focused, but still a little angry. The contractors' vehicles all began showing up on the side of the roads all over town. Getting towed to all the shops in town with destroyed transmissions and other problems. Their largest crane was basically destroyed. Welders, etc. The contractor defaulted on the job due to a total lack of progress on the job and had liens placed against it. He eventually lost his home and went through a divorce in the aftermath. 10 years later, after college, my brother confided that when he heard they threatened me and my parents' home, he and some friends had added things to every engine block, transmission, or hydraulic system they could find on the contractor site. I'm not sure why, but while I was working on the 47th floor, the window washers had to open a window. It was like a wind tunnel. Papers were blowing all over the place. My uncle is a former window cleaner, and he said his most memorable moments were when he lived and worked in Rotorua, which at the time was the crime capital of New Zealand. The most bizarre was when he saw some naked guy, obviously high on something, getting Benny Hill chased up and down a street by the police. The second most bizarre was when he heard a crash, followed by a van tire bouncing down the street. That was being chased by a massive Maori guy who proceeded to throw the tire over his shoulder and wander off whistling as if nothing had happened. Well, I was washing the outside of the windows at the group home I work at. State was coming by later that week and I was super bored. I walk up to one of my dude's bedroom windows to wash it off. And apparently he hears me outside. Somehow, even though he had his radio turned up to about 9,1000. Like he always does. He rips up his blinds, totes naked, and starts slapping himself repeatedly in the forehead and screaming. This was pretty normal for him. But it's definitely the strangest thing I've ever seen so far in my life while washing a window. My condo building was having the windows cleaned. Being a teenager, I forgot. I was in my room with my girlfriend at the time. I start hearing this noise and think, that's weird, there's no floor above us. So I stop and start turning my head. I am still on top of her, when bam, ladder appears at my window. Middle-aged window cleaner sees us, starts laughing. I jump up naked, covering myself, and run for the remote for the automatic blinds. Press the button, and stood there in front of the cleaner while my blinds slowly I stand there buck naked for a good minute, while the cleaner and my GF laugh their asses off. My grandfather met my grandma while working as a window washer. He put his phone number right up against the glass of her office and hoped she wrote it down. She did and called, and they've been married for 60 years. Not really what he saw, but what he did. My great grandfather was a window cleaner for a period. He was an immigrant and basically doing anything he could to make money. One day he was cleaning a third-story window and somehow slipped and fell. He then proceeded to get up and go back to cleaning windows because he needed to get paid. I never got to meet him, but he was a cool guy. When I was in hospital in labor with my daughter, I look up from lying over the bed, massive belly, moaning, and what do I see? A window washer. The funniest thing was that the windows were reflective and he clearly couldn't see me. Or if he could, he was a world champion poker player. He had no idea he was 3 feet away from a groaning elephant-like naked lady. Despite the pain, I laughed.